Hey everyone, this was originally live streamed, but it's been edited down into a nice compressed version of the video. In this video, you'll see me create a settings page using tRPC, Clerk, Next.js, and ChakraUI. By the end, I have a working version. Hope you enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one. Hi, it's me. It's your friend, it's your boy. We're live streaming, we're doing things, we're rebuilding things. This live stream is going to be me probably rebuilding a single page with tRPC, Next.js, and some other stuff. I already have some code that's been written before, so we'll show that and I'll explain how that code works now, and then what we need to add to our tRPC stuff. Okay, so here is the app layout right now. It may look fairly familiar. We have a Prisma schema, we have a source file that contains all sorts of goodies, and it has Next.js, tRPC, and it has Clerk already configured. So Clerk is in a couple of different spots here. First, in the pages, we have sign in and sign up, and these just hold a sign in and a sign up page. And then we also have this user profile page, which holds just the user profile in general. So if someone wants to update something on their user profile, they can do it. And that's about it for at least UI components. And then we have this user webhook, which I just literally finished yesterday. And what this does is it looks for two events. One is the create event and one is the updated event. And this comes from Clerk. Essentially what we're doing here is just either inserting into the database either the name or the email, or if they've never been created before, create a user ID and then a name and an email, which we can then associate with other parts in our database when we get to those pages. And then if it's not one of those, we just reject it. But yeah, so this is just for a bit of user sync back that isn't really required. And I could just use something like front-end metadata to link Supabase and Clerk together. But I just wanted to make sure that we could use webhooks here and that they function the way I expect them to. So we have that. And then we have a standard tRPC setup, which would probably be better if I actually looked at the server. So we have context here, which is actually run against Clerk's users with this piece of code here, which then returns the user in full. And then we have our tRPC middleware that just checks to see if they're auth. If they're authed, great. If they're not, that's fine as well. So we have options here to make sure that the user in general can do what we expect. So now we have that. We can talk about the DB, which we're using Prisma, but we're actually using Supabase in, I guess, a non-traditional sense. So I'm using tRPC with no front-end code for it. So I have RLS turned on with no way for anyone to actually make a request to the database without the database password or the server token that comes along with it. So we have three models here. We have a user model, we have a settings model, and a subscription model. Now this is based upon older code, which you can see here. So this is the original micro-SaaS that's still good today and it's still making me money, so that's good. Here's the application settings. It just has this user profile at the top, and then it has a bunch of API keys, and if you want an RSS feed, and then you can manage your subscription by clicking this button. And then this is powered with ChargeBee right now, but we're going to change that because I can now use something else. And that's basically the settings page. And then basically the idea here is that you go to this page and you upload a markdown, for example, like this one. And that translates into HTML here. And this is what the whole blog post looks like from start to finish. And then we can export this out to your favorite provider by clicking this button and choosing whichever one you want, putting a blog post title, and you're good to go. And then that will cross-post that content to another provider so that you can write it on your own, own the publication, but also share a bunch of other places. super useful for that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's still making me money, but I feel at the moment that it just looks like shit. And it's using some really janky code in the back. So I thought, why not just rebuild what we have already created? Plus, it gives me an excuse to write a lot of code, and it gives me an excuse to write a lot of tRPC code. Yeah, let's talk about the code that we need to implement, because some of this has actually changed, right? So this is the page we want to do. We just have this add accounts that upgrades your integrations, and then based upon that pulls in data based upon X or Y. And if there was data here, it would show you. There's a lot of jank in here. First thing we want to do is go to our settings page right now, which has nothing. And we want to be able to get the user's data from the database using tRPC and the user ID, because those are the only two things we need to make this work, I think. So if we look at a router, I created one. And we have a mutation here that doesn't actually do anything right now, and it doesn't actually, but we do have this protected route right here that we could just return something, which would just be settings. And then we just need to do something with the context, which means we would need to pull in our Prisma. Maybe that's not what I called it. It is what I called it. And say, fonts, data, select. Oh, wait. Am I writing the right code here? Nope. I'm thinking find unique where the user ID is context.user.id. Yeah. And then, and then we just need to select this. What are you complaining about? Why would these be? Oh, that's right. I think actually I can admit this for now. It's been so long since I've used Prisma. And we can get rid of this right now. Probably this. I wrote this very quickly before we... What did I miss here? Let's see. Oh, it might just be... Yeah, okay. So I just need to return settings and then just this data. And then this. All right. And then you probably want this to be there. Okay. So now we should be able to go to our settings page and say tRPC. Nope, forgot to put it in my, import. And we'll call this settings. And we'll set this to setting routes. And that's poor naming convention, isn't it? Let's see what comes out first. And then I'll go back and fix it after the fact. Let's just do that. This should come back as null. It shouldn't come back as anything. There shouldn't be any settings for this user right now, which is fine. That's what we want. So there's two stages to creation. There is nothing, and then there is something. And based upon whether our users put anything in, will allow us to do something. But I want to see if we get an error first. Okay, so if I go to settings, we should get blank page. And we get a query. So that's good. So now we should just update mine with some arbitrary settings. So now we can take this button and we can add into our settings here a mutation. So we should call this get settings. And then we'll create one called update settings, which is also a protected procedure, but it's a mutation. It'll also be asynchronous, and we'll need context, and we'll need input, and we'll put an input here, and then we'll do const Obviously, we need to go and like actually do something with this because right now it doesn't do a lot. But we can do const update equals awaits Prisma settings update or upsert, because we know for a fact that this user potentially could not have anything in their database, right? So we have two like pieces. When the user first logs in for the first time, they don't have any settings because they haven't put any of their data in. Then on secondary requests, we could just use upsert here to verify whether or not they have it. And then if they do, we can insert it. So what we need to do here is we'll do create and we'll put dev2. We'll just put hello dev2 because there's more in here. There's like hashing and all sorts in here that I have to do. But this will just get a good baseline that the database works, and then we can go back and do other stuff to it. User ID will be context.user.id. Yep. And then we need where clause, where user ID equals context.user.id. And then finally, we need update where something. For now, we'll just put dev2 as updated. And we can hit save. And then we can see where we're at here. And we can just return for now. Great. And then we need to close out this. There we go. All right, so now we have everything, right? So here, basically the idea here is we're going to update. We could just actually just return this for now. Where the user ID equals context user ID, if they don't have it, we'll just add all of this data in, and then we'll update this. I have a feeling that I may have fucked up Prisma somewhere along the lines of how everything's connected. So we may need to do something like user connect user ID context user ID. I think that's what I'm supposed to do, but I can never remember. Anyway, we'll leave it in there for now. And then what we can do is go back to our settings and say mutation equals tRPC dot settings dot mutation. That's not how that works, is it? Update settings dot use mutation. I feel like I fucked something up and now I can't remember what I did. Even though I've written tRPC code 1,000 times. All right, let me look at this screen. Okay, that be what I'm doing. And then that's be what I want to do. Yep, okay. So it's just mutate. Not a mutation event. You're really helpful, VS Code. Just trust me, bro. I wonder if I just move this to here. Oh, wait. I am on fire today. Oh, yeah. I've had a good day at work. That's a 10 in my book. Damn it. But for now, we can just delete this back out. Do console.log. And then let's finish this out. Are there any variables? I don't think there are they? Let's look. I have an input here, but technically there is no input. Guess I could just do that for now. And we'll just do handle click. And then we can actually see here. Yes. Where it tried to commit something. Let's see. Supabase. The app that signs me out 600 times a day. Hey. Oop. Troll. Okay. So we have everything. Although I have no active on here, but if we go here, And we should see a settings ID attached to it. Ta-da! All right, cool. Dope. And now if I press it again, it should do the upsert version. So let's just test to make sure that works. Oh yeah. Testing things by clicking buttons. And then if we go back here and we refresh this, update it. All right, cool. So that's how you test everything works. You just write really simple buttons and queries and then fix it after the fact. Okay. And then let's fix this real quick. Oh, RNS is enabled. Okay. Just no policies. That's correct. I'm using it in non-traditional sense, so that makes sense. What is this code? What is this? The double squares in the sign-in page route. So anyway, to answer your question, what is this? This is called an optional catch-all route. So this gives you the ability to pass in query parameters, and it will use those query parameters for something. So in this example, if you were to go to here and log out, here's the sign-in page that we're currently on. And if we sign into this, let me actually fix it so it's using the right one. Is this the right one? Yep. Paths. Let's update these real quick. /sign up. And sign in. All right. So I apply these changes and go back to my application. We should be able to go to localhost again. All right. This time it will go, it's really hard to see on screen. But if you look here, maybe if I zoom in, it doesn't work on zoom in. That's fine. The URL right now is this. So these query parameters wouldn't work. And then when you use something like OAuth to do a sign in, so let's sign in as me again. The URL that gets passed back contains OAuth tokens. Oh, hello. What is happening now? Our lights are going crazy. But yeah, so there's some changes there that allow you to essentially optional catch-all route that allows you to catch things like OAuth parameters or something like that, which is what we're using in Clerk to do sign in, sign up. User profile, all that kind of jazz allows you to essentially handle OAuth. Let's try this one. There we go. So yeah, so essentially that's all it's doing. Optional catch-all routes. That's a Next.js thing. If you've never seen it before, Next.js has a great documentation about how they work. All right. So now we have that. I suppose we should build something up. Oh, actually, we should make sure that this actually loads settings. So let's do a div real quick and do settings.dr. Settings, I gotta fix that. Dev2. Yep, no problem. Anytime. Okay. So if I now go to settings, in theory, we should get settings updated. That is indeed what comes from the database. Okay, so all of that is working now. So we now have optional catch-all route. We now have the ability to technically update them, although we need to add Zod to handle the input in. And then we should be good to go, at least for this page, but we've got a lot of UI to build. And that's where my handy dandy ChakraUI comes in. I bet we can find something in here that'll probably do what I form layouts, maybe. We could probably take some of this because I only want them to be able to update a very small amount of code, which is basically just this piece, but with 4 or 5 pieces. I'm more interested in what they're doing here. In this space, let me just check Twitch again, make sure it hasn't exploded into a million pieces. Nope, we're still good. All right, cool. Let's go and see if we can build something fairly similar to this. Right. Okay. So let's import container. Set the max width to 7XL. And then we'll import that. container. Yep. And stack and form control and form input. Nope. Input. And we'll call it a day. Right. And then we'll do a stack. And inside of that stack, we'll have a form. And we'll have an input type equals password. Cool. All right, everything seems to be working now, so I can go back to this screen. Perfect. All right. So what we can do now is take an input as a password, and we'll give it an area label set to like dev to input. And then we'll give it a placeholder. And we'll say dev to API key. Because I'm pretty sure I should check actually while we're here. One of my open issues for this was to check to see if dev2 had done anything yet. So we need hash node and hash node publication. And we'll just put in this for a quick second. Input pub key. We'll hit save and we'll go look, see what that looks like first. So we'll go here. All right. Except from being the size of, hey, thanks for becoming a subscriber. I really appreciate that. Apart from being an absolute pain in the butt and being the full width, that works. Although, is it technically type password? Not really, but I think we can do this instead. Wait. Nope, that's not what I want. I think I want password. It's not really, but I guess it needs to be a password. And none of them are required off the top of my head. You need one to like actually use the project. Like in the old one, you needed at least one to get it to go. Once you did one, you were good. But we can take this button here. We can drop that in here and we can say button. Hey, Jess, how's it going? Yeah, I agree. We'll do something custom for it, probably. In the long term, long range of everything, I'll end up just making something custom that does what I want. Cool. Looks like a thing. Is form control an individual thing or is it on everything? It is on individual things. All right. We'll just set this to dev2. I can never remember. It's getting old. And then form control ID is hash node. And then we'll call the last one hash node pub. Hash node equals hash node pub. And that should be everything. And then we can wrap this whole thing in a form. And then, shit, did I fuck up? Oh, one more. And now we have a form that we can say on submit. And then we'll make this. And now we'll update our mutate to actually take some inputs. So we need to import Z from Zod. Oh, Zod, what would I do without you? Wrong page. On here. How do I not have it here either? Sometimes you can't win them all. Z. So if you've never seen Zod before, let's talk about it. So the way that Zod works is it's this great feature. I did a piece on it recently, but what it does is essentially allows you to do some really great stuff. So you can basically do something like, here is a schema. My schema should be at least a string, right? If it's a string, then this would pass and you could continue on. If you did this, it would throw a Zod error, which you can then handle however you want. So if you wanted to like throw an error or return an error back to handle on the front end, you could do that. And then you could do things like this, right? So you can say const user is an object and it should contain all of these things. A username, maybe it contains a password, maybe it contains a first name, last name, all those kinds of things. And you essentially get to infer that as a user and then use it wherever you need to as part of TypeScript, which gives you the ability to essentially keep user input validated and type safe before it even gets anywhere. And it does some really cool stuff. One of my favorite things is this. So if you know the limit of what your input should be, or maximum or length, or if it should be an email or starts with, or is a UUID, all these kinds of things, right? And then you can return the message with the error message. So you could use that to then power the front end, for example, like you return that as an error message, you read that error message, you put a toast up that says, hey, by the way, you inputted your email wrong. It should be this. This is what you entered, or whatever you want to do. Giving the user the ability to update that and then try again, but also keeps everything safe and or secure. So how does that work with tRPC? Well, that's a great question. So if we use create T3 app, because it's just easier, and we say, I believe that they may have something. Oh God, trash is on my screen. Yeah, you do something like, let's see if they have any examples. They usually are good for examples. It's usually where I find most of my examples to tell people about. Apparently not. Well, okay then. I'll just go to tRPC and look it up. But yeah, essentially what you can do here is use Zod to create that piece in between, allowing you to do something before you check. So this should be a string. This should be X. This should be Y. So that when you do a tRPC request, you don't get the wrong information. But let's just do it here. So input should go like this. And then this will then be into what we want. So for our example here, we're saying there's an object and it contains these things. So we'll also have those things. There may be an extra one there. And it will be, oh, thank you very much. Becoming a follower, super appreciate that. We would change this from text, it would be dev2. And it could be null and it could be a string. And this object in general could be null. And then we need hash node also to be z.string. And it could also be null, or hash node pub could also be a z.string, nullish. And that should be everything. We can fix that with some of this. And then if we hit save, then Prettier should fix all of my bad code skills. And we should have something fairly good here. And then we can take that and we can say, we've checked this. It should always be one of these. And if it's not, then it will get messed up. And then we should be able to do, yeah, input question mark hash node. And then, oh, hello there. Welcome to the subscribers. And that could also be nullish. And then the same down here too. Although thinking long term that this probably won't work the way that we want. We'll have to do something like if it's nullish, give it back the old one. But that's fine. Like we can deal with that when it comes to it. But overall, this should essentially work. And our mutate now should have the ability to pass in our dev2, our hash node, and our hash node pub. And what we can do here is do really bad code. So event.target 0.value. Don't do this, kids. Don't do this anywhere. But we'll do it right now. We'll set this to 2 and this to 1. And we'll put a comma here. And we'll hit save. And then we'll go back to the localhost version. And we'll type some stuff in here. Oh yeah, I hate that a lot. And it do be doing stuff. Let's see what it did. In our settings table, as you can see, my very technical EFF, and then maybe even a ref has worked. So that now essentially gives us type safety and also everything that we need. This needs to change, obviously, but it gives us the beginning parts to like how someone can update their settings. One thing that we need to do is make this not type password. It's going to be like type text, but like on blur will hide. But I think that's where we're going to end the stream for today, because the input's now working. Like, we're getting all of our data back. It's working as expected, which is nice. That doesn't normally happen on the first go. So yeah, so if you did enjoy the live stream, make sure that you're following me on Twitch if you are a Twitch goer. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I do weekly videos, if not 2 a week at the moment, and we'll be live again on Thursday this week. And then if you're really interested in tRPC, the next week on the 19th, on Thursday at 6 p.m, we'll be live with 2 of the tRPC core members and Trash Dev talking all about tRPC. And I'll see you on the next live stream on Thursday. See ya.